Welcome everyone. I'm Giulio Coraggio, the location head of the Italian Intellectual Property and Technology Department at the global law firm DLA Piper. This is podcast Legal Leaders Insights, where we interview, obviously, legal leaders on the core topics of innovation. Today, I'm really happy to have as our special guest Jole Bertone. Jole Bertone is the Director of Legal and Compliance at Iliad Italy. Jole, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much, Giulio. I'm really pleased to be here.
Jole, Iliad is the disruptor of the telecom sector. When we start our chat, our interviews, we always start with a bit of the background of our guests. Can you just tell us how you reached this role, your career pathway?
Absolutely, with pleasure. Well, I started off as a practitioner, as a lawyer, as many of us did.
Yeah.
But my career soon took a sort of unexpected turn. Mm-hmm. I started trespassing and moving away from strictly legal work pretty soon. Mm-hmm. I joined Vodafone Italia in the regulatory department, starting mixing legal with regulatory perspectives. Okay. And this is when I joined the telco business a few years back. Then I worked as a legal advisor in Bahrain for the regulatory authority of that kingdom. And that was really an unorthodox move from my end, but really fulfilling experience. And then I got back to Italy with a non-legal role in Deloitte. And I actually did not practice anything law-related for more than 6 years. And while a bit scary at first, that was really a milestone for me because I had the opportunity to learn different things. Especially in terms of how to approach reasoning, how to solve problems from a different perspectives. And now in my current role, what I try to do every day with my team is to merge all these previous experiences. Therefore, a strong legal background from several perspectives. Sure. And what I hope to be an innovative approach to addressing legal issues, more in terms of legal risk management than otherwise. So this is it.
This sounds very interesting because sometimes lawyers have a perspective that is not digged into the operations, into the business, and how their advice should guide the business. So sometimes you can see that the business sees lawyers and in-house legal teams as a kind of threat to what they want to really do. Do you think that your career path enriched you and helped you to provide a better service in your current role?
I really wish this is the case, insofar as I had the opportunity to work on an alternative approach to legal issues, as mentioned. And I found out that compliance, which is compliance in general terms, both in terms of complying with laws, obligations, whatever they are, both in terms of compliance as we know it today, therefore a specific set of rules regulating specific areas of human behavior in business context. Yeah. Both types of compliance actually are just risk management tools. And if, and it is a big if, you manage to convey this message to your colleagues within a business firm, i.e. that comply with rules is actually a way to manage risks, then it's a bit easier, not necessarily that easy, but maybe a bit easier to gain their trust and find a common ground to work together. So I think that this could be something worth considering for lawyers, both in-house and external counsels.
Absolutely. I do believe that lawyers should be more and more part of the business, should be rewarded for the business targets, and should be more integrated, while sometimes they are seen as a mere cost While I hope that at one point we will have the business looking at us as a driver of their business area, as a contributor of the business, because we can help them to achieve what they want to get, where they want to get.
Yes, and also there is an interesting concept that I learned while in Deloitte, which it took me a while to get my mind around it.
Sure.
But there we used to call it cost of quality, which is not the cost of those, let's say, departments, functions, such as the legal ones that exist within a company and do their work. No, the cost of quality is the savings that those departments bring to the company by doing their job. So by avoiding claims or reducing claims, by mitigating risks, by absorbing opposite views, by finding ways to make the business possible while tackling legal issues. All these things that maybe do not even reach the ears of the board members or maybe of the shareholders, because are not that apparent, are still a source of value. As a value in the concept of reducing costs coming from risks that are not tackled appropriately. And I really like this concept, and I think that especially in-house lawyers, together with, of course, external counsels, produce this value. So, and I'm hopeful that in the coming years, this concept will be more familiar for many colleagues. So there's hope for in-house counsels, I'm sure.
I think in-house counsels should be better at tracking these savings, because they're more difficult to spot sometimes.
It is difficult, but it's not only about savings in terms of, and I think actually you're making a very good point. The difficulty for us is that we move, as lawyers, is that we move in uncharted territories most of the times. We don't have the crystal ball, so we don't know actually what's going to happen. We make educated guesses about the odds given the circumstances. So it's very difficult to calculate the actual saving that we brought to our company by giving them a certain advice, because we will never have the counterfactual evidence. We will never know what would have happened if we hadn't given that specific advice. So that's a bit tricky, but still, I think that although the getting better at tracking expenses, at associating initiatives with results in terms of benefits to the company and other activities, is certainly something that in-house counsels should do more. I still think that there is a quid pluris, something more about our work that cannot be calculated, which is so difficult to convey. And therefore, we need to promote cultural change, maybe a cultural evolution about how we are perceived. And to do that, as you were saying, it is essential to not to give up and to keep engaging with the business and show them that we are there for them, not the other way around.
It's an intangible asset that we don't see in the financial statement.
Exactly.
But it has a considerable weight.
Absolutely.
And this intangible asset is so difficult to quantify during a period where we have so many new regulations coming into place in relation to innovation. And Iliad, by definition, is an innovative company. It's a disruptor. So we had the GDPR, but then we have the applicability of the GDPR to new technologies. Then we have NIS2 that was just came into place in Italy. We have the AI Act. The first provisions are already in place, and then we will have the full package in place in the coming months. So how can you balance compliance and business targets? I mean, Iliad's customers, they want innovative solutions, or your operations want innovative tools to provide a better service, and so you shouldn't be seen as a blocker. How do you do that?
I wish I knew. Let's put it this way. The idea that rules constrained innovation is very common, is very popular. I've heard that plenty of times. As a student, I used to enjoy particularly competition law. Yeah. And there was always a very animated debate about whether regulation and how much regulation also in the telco sector should intervene. Back then, we were just after the waves of liberalization that hit Europe. So the conversations were about what's the right amount of regulation so as not to stifle innovation. And 20 years later, we are discussing in the same terms about different areas, but the concept is still the same. First of all, my view is that it is not true that rules prevent innovation. Let's look around us. Innovation is plenty. There's so much innovation that we are overwhelmed by it. As users, as business people, as lawyers, as free individuals. So there is not necessarily an incompatibility between the two. This, from a philosophical perspective, is what I believe. Sure. So at that point, rules are a given. We need to play along. And learn how to befriend rules as opposed to resist change, because rules are not going anywhere. If anything, rules will increase. Yeah. How do we do that? As I said, I wish I knew, but I don't have the magic formula, unfortunately. But what I try to do in my role with my team and colleagues is precisely going back to the very nature and the very purpose of compliance. As I mentioned earlier, compliance is not an exercise that we do as a hobby or that we do because we want to make somebody else happy, like the regulator or the government or the legal team. We comply because there are risks that need to be tackled. Compliance is just a less attractive name than risk management. So, considering that innovation implies huge investments and therefore huge risks by companies, the more you invest, the greater the risks you are taking, the more you need to manage those risks. And compliance rules, let's put it that way, frameworks, provide you an opportunity to face those risks and address them. Not necessarily eliminate them, but address them in a way that is compatible with your goals. So, as a result, you are really befriending those rules as a company. You are not resisting to them, but you are taking them as an opportunity to protect your investments and grow steadily, consistently over time. So this is the approach that I adopt and I try to convey. And this means day after day, try to strike a balance between different instances and promote a culture of proximity with the business. Yeah. So that compliance is not perceived as something from another planet, but just a way to address risks. And also make an effort as a team, as a legal team, to take the first step towards the business.
Listen what they
want, listen what they say, and find a way to have them comply by design, which is the magic word. Maybe this is the magic formula. So it is on us to understand the processes. It is on us to understand the business priorities. It is on us to identify where in those processes the risks lie. And it is on us to to promote a discussion with our colleagues to identify the measures that can be introduced in the process so that the process itself will result in less risky outcomes. I think this is very exciting, but it is a process in itself. So
yeah. And in this process, from a governance perspective, do you have some legal tools, strategies in order to make sure that you drive efficiency in your operation across so many different areas that impact the compliance of a leading telecom operator? Like we have privacy, we have cybersecurity, we have AI, we have telecom regulations. So how do you drive efficiency across your team or your operation?
What I think could be efficient, and what I believe is something that is worth considering, and that I am happy to encourage in Iliad and elsewhere. I mean, as a principle, is that the opportunity for integrated compliance is huge. And it is essential that in the company, more than one person that have maybe supplementary competencies and skills
overlapping,
exactly, are identified and given responsibility to manage this environment. Let's be reminded that the AI legislation envisages specific responsibilities for management bodies and individuals at Italian level, in terms of Italian law, whereas the directive envisages a responsibility for the executive bodies. Mm-hmm. And there's a little difference in the words that are used by the two pieces of legislation. So in Italy, probably what you have to do is identify those steps of the processes that are more exposed to the risks that we were discussing earlier, and have them monitored by a director, someone who is given responsibility but also power, so as to ensure that this person is directly involved in what happens in the process. Again, I think that considering the obligation that the law establishes in terms of responsibilities, there must be a clear mandate from the CEO to one or more people in the organization to monitor what happens in the processes. A clear mandate, enough resources must be allocated and tracked. Reporting, I think, is essential. Also because the executive bodies needs to be aware of what happens and are even responsible about what happens. So they needs to be updated regularly, and no one can just limit their activities to mere oversight. They need to intervene. They need to take the lead. They need to propose and implement change. And this is what the law requires. So by delegations or proxies, someone in the company, even more than one person, must be empowered to do that and to report back to the executives or the board of administrators to report on what's happening. And through this exchange, which underpins probably the law as I read it, is probably an effective legal tool that we can apply to promote this gradual penetration of compliance principles or risk management principles into the various processes.
Thanks, Jole. Bonus question. We always end our episodes with a question. If you should mention one skill that a young lawyer should have to do a career like yours, if they are willing to reach the targets, the positions that you have achieved through your career. What is the skill that comes to your mind first?
The ability to cultivate curiosity.
Yeah,
I think that one. And just don't be afraid of try something new, of explore something unexpected, of make experiments and see what happens. First, study and do that for quite a long time. Actually, never stop.
Yeah.
But then once you have found your core, you can afford to take maybe a longer step, and maybe you will lose your balance or maybe not, but that shouldn't scare you because you do have your core that keeps you in check. But if you don't fall, that maybe on the other side you might find out something new, something interesting, something useful. So just explore and keep being curious and keep ask questions. Yes, to yourself first of all. Yes.
Thank you, Jole. I believe it was very insightful, and you gave some useful tips whoever is approaching this career. I thank you for your time. Hope it was useful for the listeners. This is the podcast Legal Leaders Insights. I'm Giulio Coraggio, and I wish you a very good day. Arrivederci.